So, love the show. I watched it like all in a day and a half. I think you guys are amazing in it, so thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Joey.
Um,
Thank you, Joey.
yeah. I was curious, something that I loved is this is a show where men get to talk about their feelings. I feel like my world as a gay man, we only talk about our feelings, but like men don't really get to do that a lot. I was curious if that's something you guys were excited to explore with the show.
And I mean, now that you frame it that, I mean, it it is a good thing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's kind of articulating that. But I mean, we've been talking about, I feel like the stigma of going to therapy is no longer there. It's a pretty accepted thing. Uh, Even though, as you said, for the most part, men still probably are less inclined to talk about their feelings.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but yeah, I mean, it was just really interesting to sit and do these therapy sessions on camera and have it feel as real as it did. Was exciting and intense, and the reasons why we just wanted to do the project.
Yeah, you guys have done, a number of things together, and I guess Paul, I wonder if maybe you can tell me, um, like what exactly about The Shrink Next Door excited you, specifically with your relationship with Will, just because anytime you guys were alone on screen together, I feel like I was so enthralled with it because I kept thinking about how Ike is presenting himself next to what Ike is going through his head the whole time. Tell me about, like, in terms of this collaboration, what you were most excited to do.
Well, I was, I mean, I honestly, across the board, couldn't have been more excited with every single person involved and the material that we
Mhm.
were doing. I'm the number one Will Ferrell fan, so that was obvious. That I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that we're gonna get to do this together. It's a real thrill. But that I also feel the same way about Kathryn Hahn and Casey and the two directors that we had,
Mhm.
Michael Showalter and Jesse Peretz, are two of my best friends. And so I heard this podcast initially because Michael had called me and said, "Have you heard this thing? Listen to this." Um, I was riveted, and it was such a fascinating story. It made me think of Brian Wilson and Eugene Landy, and I thought, I bet this
Yeah.
happens maybe more than we think.
Right.
But this was such a specific version of it, and it existed in a world that I felt like I kind of knew.
Yeah.
And same with Michael. We heard that Will had also been kind of listening to these podcasts around the same time. And we thought, what if we all try and do this together? When everyone else kind of came on board, it was really just a dream. I couldn't have been more excited to get to work with the people that I worked with on it. I was also excited to play a part that was different than something I had done before,
Mhm.
uh, and maybe something that people might not expect, but certainly from an acting standpoint, to try and play a person who many people I know are going to think about him one way, but to understand for me why he would do the things that he does, how he views it, and the complexity and nuance and what's damaged about him, to find those things, qualities that I'm sympathetic toward, was a great acting challenge and one that I was excited to take on.
Yeah, sort of. I love how everyone in the cast is able to, they're really good at bringing comedy to drama and bringing drama to comedy. This cast is insane. Everyone that popped up in the show, I was like, holy shit, holy shit. It's just such a stacked cast. Um, so I guess we're running short on time. So I guess thank you guys so much. Love the show. Can't wait for everyone else to see it. And I think it's really important to see the sort of bond that isn't totally nefarious, but there is a love there between these two
Yeah.
guys that sort of goes wrong. That's what I really got pulled by. So thank you guys so much.
Well, that's
That's
nice to
so great.
hear. And I
Yeah.
know Georgia, the
That was,
writer, would really like hearing that too,
yeah.
because that was what she was going for.
Oh, good. Yeah, I spoke to her. So yeah, she was great. So Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. This is like a gay fever dream, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. um, I love the show. I've seen the whole thing. I barreled through it in like a day and a half. I gotta ask, Bonnie and Phyllis don't really interact with one another. But whenever one of you wasn't on screen, I was constantly thinking about the other character, and I was wondering if they were able to connect on a more meaningful level. What do you think these two women could learn from one another?
My gosh. I mean, I think that Bonnie could learn so much from Phyllis in terms of standing up for herself a bit. And I think Bonnie is kind of only seeing what she wants to see, and Phyllis has just great BS detector. And so I think Bonnie could take a page or two, perhaps. This iteration of Bonnie as Georgia's, conceived it.
Yeah, I think I could learn a lot about just how to just keep it together kitchen wise.
Hair.
Hair, clothing.
Yeah. Well,
I could take some tips.
hats.
Hats.
Bonnie has a lot to offer in the hat department.
And also just like I feel like deep breaths and patience. I feel like Phyllis is a little bit of a reactionary person, and there is something, I'm not going to put a judgment on it, but that there is something unjudgmental. I don't know. I'm putting this, I don't know if you feel this way, but as a viewer, there is something very patient and kind about Bonnie.
It's not what I was going for, but
Anyway.
I have to say, in the hair department, I was in love with a lot of the hairstyles, I gotta say. So
Yeah.
that's
good
the
to
very
hear.
satisfactory to me. Kathryn, I guess I wanted to ask, you sort of hinted at this a little bit, being a reactionary person. Do you think Phyllis has always followed her instincts, and is this the first time where she doesn't get the result she's necessarily looking for?
Yeah, no, clearly she has a history of not, I mean, this Phyllis in this iteration that Georgia has written, she clearly has not had very good luck with men. She's had very unsuccessful business ventures of various kinds, which has led her to work for her big brother in their family business. I think she just like, I think she's like an instinctual gut kind of a person. This Phyllis, I'm saying, yeah. So I think, I think she definitely is, especially with her brother, is because it's her brother, and I mean, I think that she's prone to just going right to 10.
I actually find that to be a very admirable quality. Maybe, well, my husband always tells
Yes.
me,
I wish I had a little bit more.
yeah, my husband always says I'm sort of like um, I'm 37, but I'm like an angry curmudgeon. So I feel like I'm gonna
Like you're
take a little
holding
bit.
a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty
You
short,
gotta
so
get out in the
a
desert
lot
and
of
scream.
yeah. Um, Casey, does Bonnie sort of see herself in the same boat as Marty, or do you think that's something that she grows to understand in terms of her relationship with her husband? I love how Bonnie has a very big heart. I felt that very much throughout the whole show. I love how she's always sort of making sure that she's checking in with Will's character throughout, even if it's just a sort of, um, even say his name out loud in a lot of situations. She always feels like she's always including him. But as time goes on, I was wondering if maybe Bonnie kind of connects with Marty in sort of a strange way.
I think she absolutely does. I think through Marty, she's able to kind of see the behavior that Ike has been showing her, and she really empathizes with him because I think she thinks Marty's such a sweet guy. And yeah, she's kind of going along with her husband, but I think it's like the train has sort of left the station in a way with her own husband, but she is protective over Marty because she sees herself. I think was obsessed with Ike in the beginning and thinks everything of him and has kind of let him lead them through life. And yeah, so a real kinship I think she has with Marty.
Yeah, okay. I guess just one last thing before I let you both go. Kathryn, you have this really incredible line at the end of episode 2, something along the lines of, I wrote it down, of course I can't find it now. Like, family is,
Oh, a collection of people you owe an apology to.
oh my God, that's an incredible line. That is, I've been thinking about that for like 4 days. So,
Oh, I know. Me too. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, really,
Amazing.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like you never think about it that way, and then you're like, of course.
I owe everyone a phone call, really.
And then
Yeah.
everyone owes you one.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
I was like going through my texts after that. I was like, I haven't answered any of these messages, so I should probably get on that to be a better family member and a better person.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Just gotta say,
Yeah.
selfishly, love Mrs. Fletcher. Still talking about it. Love Black Monday, the most underestimated comedy on television. So thank you so much for your time.
I
and-
agree.
Gosh, this is so sweet.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah. Have a
what
good rest
an
of your day. and I'll-
affirming interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Life affirming.
Good.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye,
too.
honey. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, Joey.
Hey, Michael. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am fine and dandy. I really loved the show. I watched the whole thing. Insanely impressed with everyone in it. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I sort of wanted to know what's the biggest pressure in directing an adaptation of a podcast? 'Cause I feel like we don't get as many of those as other things. So what was sort of the biggest pressure in capturing the essence of that original series?
I mean, by the time we get to we're actually directing it, scripts have been written, and so at that point, I'm working off of a script, and so I've done many projects now where my source material is based on true events, whether it's the Big Sick or the Eyes of Tammy Faye, this movie I just did about Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker. For me, I approach true stories almost the way I would approach a fictional story. I'm telling the story that's on the page, and so if in a sense, like accuracy, historical accuracy, things like that, those are things that get addressed in the creation of the script and the adaptation. That for me, by the time I'm ready to start making the show, I just want it to be as good as it can be as a TV show for people to enjoy as a piece of entertainment. And hopefully if they haven't heard the podcast, they'll go listen to the podcast and get that perspective and hear the story told that way. And they'll notice that there are certain ways in which it's different. But I think for me, it's about trying to hear the podcast and you try to ask yourself, what would this be if it was something else? What would that feel like? What would the tone be? What would the approach be?
Yeah. I'm glad you say going back and listening to it, because I actually had never heard of the story, and then as I was watching it, I immediately started downloading the episodes. I was like, all right, as soon as the show is over, I want to go back to like the beginning and sort of listen to the
Have you
original
listened
story.
to it yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I was actually going to
wow.
start after today. So
It's so good. It's
so
so
I
it's
finished
so good.
yeah, because I finished the show this morning. So I'm deep in it. I'm ready to go again.
You'll love it.
Um,
You'll love it.
yeah. I'm glad you brought up Tammy Faye. I loved Tammy Faye too. Like, my God, the performances in that. I love the pace of that movie. I think that's a really special movie about a woman who we have a perception of already, and that sort of allows us to change that in my own mind. And I sort of, as I was watching the Shrink Next Door, I was curious if you were drawn to stories about people like following blindly
Yeah.
other people. What can you tell me about that? Just because I think it's so interesting that these two projects come back to back.
And then my next project is this show, The Dropout, on Hulu,
Oh,
which
okay.
is about Elizabeth Holmes.
Oh,
And yeah, and which is another story about sort of people following blindly Elizabeth Holmes and and Theranos and what they did. And I think I am fascinated by it. I'm drawn to, I think it's sort of a quest for authenticity is sort of like something that I'm personally very interested in, is a sort of, we as humans are sort of on this eternal quest for personal authenticity, to kind of become our truest selves. And so I think that, like, I'll speak for myself and say my own life is sort of a quest for personal authenticity, to try to become my truest self. And so I'm fascinated by, oftentimes it's in the quest for authenticity that you're taken off course. So as you're actively seeking your truest self, someone comes along and derails it in this incredibly extreme way. So
yeah.
you look at, like, and Search Party, my TV show Search Party, is a similar thing too, where the main character, the alias Shawkat character, she's searching for herself. We always said the first season of Search Party, she's searching for this lost missing person, but she's really searching for herself. And
Yeah.
so, but when we were making The Shrink Next Door, all those Nixium documentaries were on. All of those Keith
Yeah.
Raniere documentaries were
Mhm.
coming on. And these are people who are doing self-help programs, and they think they're finding their true selves. And what they don't realize is that they're actually being brainwashed. And we see it in government. We see it in all forms of there's these shows now about Lulu Rowe, like
I
the
was gonna bring
yoga
that up.
pants, and
Yeah. That was
and
like,
and
oh,
and so it seems like there's this weird way in which people think that they're finding their most authentic self, and they're being sold that. They're being sort of sold, this is you, this is the real
yeah.
you, this is the best you. And in reality, it's not. It's a
Yeah.
manipulation. And so I don't know why I have had dysfunctional relationships of my own that I could draw from, where I relate to
Yeah.
what it's like to be kind of gaslit, essentially. I mean, Ike is a real gaslighter.
Yeah.
The Ike
He's
character is a gaslighter, and that's a very dangerous thing.
I think this is like Paul Rudd's like Tom Ripley performance.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go. I just gotta say one thing before I let you go. The Jesus Christ Superstar scene is so brilliantly done. It's so funny. I had to go back and watch it a couple of times. I was laughing my ass off.
I
Big
love
fan of
that
the
scene
show.
so much.
It's so great. So
Yeah.
I'm glad the show's coming out soon. Thank you so much for your time. Huge fan of your
Thank
work.
you.
Have a good rest
Thank
of your
you
day.
so much. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Um,
Hi,
I love
Bobby.
this. Hi, Georgia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I loved this show. I devoured the entire thing in like
Oh,
a
wow.
day and a half. So now I'm
Wow.
going to listen to the podcast. So thank you so much for your time. Um, there is a line that Kathryn has at the end of episode 2, which I've been thinking about it since I watched it, where she says something to the effect of, "That's what family is. It's people who do things that we don't agree with." And I thought of that line for the entire rest of the 8 episodes. Is that sort of like the one of the main themes of the show as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's a really important line. You're right. Yeah, a bunch of people we owe an apology to, or something like that. Isn't
Hmm.
it? Yeah, it's. I think family is a big part of the show, and Kathryn is so incredible as Phyllis, and you
Yeah.
just believe they are brother and sister. And she is such a powerhouse, and she can make you laugh and cry in the same minute.
Hmm.
Um, and she fights so ferociously for her brother, and I don't think we or she imagine that she's going to lose that fight, and it's so devastating when she does.
Yeah. I kept thinking of her, you know, when, we spent some time away from her, in the second half of the show, and I sort of cheesily, I kept telling myself, I was like, she's gonna come back. Like, in my heart, I couldn't sort of imagine that she was gone, because I know, like, her spirit was present throughout the whole thing. And I know that when
Yeah.
she would come back, she would come back and fight. Um,
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because a couple of the producers sort of, because she was so wonderful, said to me, can't we kind of get her in or cheat or have
mhm.
flashbacks with her in or something? And I was saying, you know what? I think we need to miss her, like Marty's missing
Yeah,
her. And I think then when she comes back, I mean, you're just so overjoyed to see her, aren't you? And it's so
yeah,
moving when they're reunited. So I think it pays off. But yeah, she's a fantastic presence in the show.
yeah, she really is. Um, you have written for some incredible shows, Veep, Succession, Run. I love that these shows all have characters whose wants and drive is very evident, and they sort of are very uncompromising in how they manipulate people. This show is a little bit different than some of those other shows. What draws you to those type of characters, or writing those type of characters?
Yeah, great question. I think I am drawn to people who are seemingly pretty hard to like,
Hmm.
or even irredeemable. And I think I enjoy the challenge of kind of digging into their characters and finding the humanity and trying to understand them. And I think, as you say, this is different. Because in Veep or Succession, people are ruthless and they've got something in their sights and they're doing something for their own kind of very obvious sort of personal gain. And Ike felt different to me because it felt like he he wanted to help. He was trying to be a good therapist. He wanted to help Marty. He loved Marty, but it felt like the things he did that were difficult to justify came from a place of damage and a place of pain. And so I wanted to sort of treat him with compassion and try and understand that rather than just say this is a bad person.
Yeah, there is sort of like with the characters of Succession or even Veep, it's sort of like those characters exist in at such a distance that we can imagine them doing horrible things. It's fine and entertaining in a weird way, but this
Mhm.
feels so much more intimate and personal, and it sort of could happen to you, or could happen
Yeah.
to someone that you love. Um, and I do love that the show, while there were things that Ike did to Marty that were really, really horrible, and I keep saying that Paul Rudd, this is like a Tom Ripley sort of performance from him. It's unlike anything I've ever
Yeah.
seen him do. Um, there is like an edge of connection between them that I
Mm.
felt throughout the whole thing. It's not like, it is nefarious, but there's a connection there that I sort of can't explain.
Mm.
Um, Sorry, that's a random.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
totally agree. I think that's exactly right. And I think, as you say, the worlds of Veep and Succession are the sort of worlds of politics and business, very cynical worlds. And in this, that's all stripped away. This is just about
mhm.
a relationship and about two people and how that relationship goes wrong. And I think so often in difficult relationships, it is very hard to spot where things go wrong and hard to know whether you trust your instincts or you just
Yeah.
wait for it to, Paul Rudd is so brilliant at just when you're kind of doubting him as Ike, he just wins you back round with some sort of charming smile or phrase or something. So he
Yeah.
was ideal casting because I think we go on that ride with Marty where we just crave the great times and the highs and we kind of put up with the bad times for those good moments.
You would sort of think that you would want someone to believe in you in the way that Ike does, but also you see sort of the fallout, especially when when Marty is separated from his family. It's sort of isolating. It's really it's tragic. It's really really sad, and it actually made me think a lot of like how many people are in such a place of loneliness that they're not really sort of looking out for themselves as somebody should be looking out for them.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, so I think that's all the time we have. I will say something that I really love about the show is that it is we don't really get to see men talk about their feelings that much,
Yeah,
and I love that about the show. It's something that I've been thinking about since I've been, watching men talking about their feelings, or
yeah,
right now we're in a place where mental health is being talked about a lot, especially with the
yeah,
pandemic sort of slowing down. So I feel like this show really resonated with me because of
yeah,
that. So thank you so much.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. So have a good rest of your day. Stay safe, and
Thank you.
yeah, nice talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you. Thank you.